I call the member for Cunningham.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, Deputy Speaker, there's been much commentary today around the government's promised surplus. In fact, one would increasingly have to say the government surplus that dare not speak its name anymore. After handing down 6 budgets, all deficits, this government has now resorted to desperate measures to try and continue the fairy tale that they are good economic managers. One of the measures that this government, in its desperation, has resorted to is withholding funding from some of the most vulnerable people in our community, people with disabilities, in order to try to hide that economic mismanagement. Money that is unspent at present is offsetting the Commonwealth's budget position, and the NDIS should never be used as a budget measure. Whilst we aren't sure this is the intention, it is the fact. Those are not my words, Deputy Speaker. They are the words of the Honourable Gareth Ward MP, the State Member for Kiama and the New South Wales Liberal Disabilities Minister, in conjunction with his Victorian ministerial counterpart, in a letter in which they accuse the federal government of prioritising a budget surplus over people with a disability by refusing to release $1.6 billion in critical unspent NDIS funding. In the Sydney Morning Herald last Friday, we saw both ministers, a Liberal and Labor state minister, demand that this $1.16 billion in critical funding be released immediately. Deputy Speaker, Gareth Ward, a state member in my regional area and the minister, is a Liberal minister in a Liberal government. And like so many of my constituents, he has become so frustrated and distraught at the way this government operates that he has written to his Liberal federal colleague, the federal minister, and his officials since before October last year, and he says there is still no formal proposal for agreement. This government should not be relying on ripping off vulnerable people to try and cover up their economic incompetency. Over the past few years, I have heard story after story of families of people who care for people with a disability having to fight for months, sadly sometimes years, to access the services and equipment they need, and more than need, that they are entitled to. They've struggled to obtain the equipment they need in order to live full and productive lives. These families have enough on their plate and should not have to fight for years to obtain the services they need to remain in the workforce or care for their family members with disabilities. I have watched my staff, all of them, lobbying hard on so many cases, despite the many obstacles they face, on behalf of these constituents. One recent case was where a constituent applied for early intervention access to the NDIS for her son. NDIA rejected the application, saying that he did not meet the disability requirements. They asked for a review, and it turns out he did meet access. While this review was quicker than had normally been the case, it was still a tremendous stress and hassle for this family to go through. The process involved getting new doctor's letters, all that sort of documentation, and it caused a great deal of stress. Another access application case, the constituent applied for access in October 2019, then did not hear anything, asked us to make inquiries in December, and we were advised that access was not met. The constituent never was notified directly. They said they sent out a letter from the NDIA, but he did not receive it, so he did not know about his appeal rights or the reasons why access was not met. After lots of phone calls, he was finally told the reason was insufficient detail in some of the reports, which was fine, but if he'd known earlier, he would have had time to get this resolved. The government says that the underspend that they are using to prop up their budget surplus is because of a lack of demand. How anybody who has an electorate office that would deal day in and day out with people seeking to get access to services or assistive technology, house modifications, could say there's an under-demand is beyond me.
I call the member for